How's everyone doing tonight? Hope your week is off to a nice start. Pretty crappy weather outside, but hopefully it was nice. Today, I did nothing. I stayed inside the entire day. Well, I did go outside once and went shopping at Trader Joe's. But other than that, stayed inside. Yesterday, after getting done working from 10 to 12 on ESPN 1000, came home, watched football all day, then watched Yellowstone, watched some other things. I'm not into Succession as much as some of the guys on ESPN 1000. You know why? I like watching a TV show where at least one person has some redeeming qualities. Nobody in that Succession has it. I watched the whole first season. I hated everyone. Why would I keep watching the show where I hated everyone? It's like, why would you listen to a radio station that you don't like anybody? We'll just leave that at that. Okay. Welcome in. Bears had the bye this week because they played last Monday night. That's why I wasn't here. So I've been gone for 2 weeks. Lots to discuss. We'll talk about the Bears. We'll get a little bit into some Justin Fields stuff. I'll talk about it, and then my guest will talk about it when he joins us in just a couple minutes. But it is Huebs Views and Brews, and I was working at a beer guest, couldn't get one, but the second half of the show, I mean, there's so many beer people I could have got them. There's a couple people I was trying to get, couldn't work it out this week, but I always have a beer, and I'm having the Jester's Cap. Okay, this is from Black Horizon Brewing, and Black Horizon, one of the many local breweries that won a medal at the Festival of Wood and Barrel Aged Beers this weekend. So Jester's Cap is a really good beer. I was over at Black Horizon the other day, and I'll tell you later in the show exactly what I was doing there. But this is a maple vanilla brown ale. So it's very tasty. If you like vanilla, if you like maple, heck, if you like beer, which basically I do, wearing my Guinness shirt. This Guinness sweatshirt, it's an old one. And when I put it on today, I said, you know what? I know this shirt, I haven't worn it for like a year. I go, this shirt's got a hole on the inside of the left side. And I looked and there it was. It's amazing after years and years of wearing the same shirts, how you know where everything is. So this is from Black Horizon. And I picked up a 4-pack the other day when I was there. Really, really tasty beer. I picked up a 4-pack. I had one last night while I was watching the Bulls. And the Bulls are out again tonight. We're talking a little bit of Bulls basketball, too. And a lot of things to get into during the course of the show. The Bears, I mentioned on a bye week. There was a little thing on Twitter today. Mark Potash reposted it. And condolences to Mark. His father passed away. If you ever go past a Potash food stores, him and his brothers, Mark's father and his brothers, were behind that. They're all over. There's one downtown I used to go to a lot with my wife, right on State Street. But in Mark Potash's tweet today, he posted something that I think he got from someone else, but it said, look at this. Bears are 3-6. The remaining schedule, they got the Ravens, who are 6-3, but they just got beat by the 2-7 Dolphins. They're at the Lions, and Bears quarterbacks have a 115.5 passer rating with 15 touchdowns and 2 interceptions against the Lions since 2008. Then they play Arizona, who just got routed by the Panthers yesterday. Then they were at the Packers. Packer 0-4 after their bye since 2017. That's good. Then they play the Vikings. Bears are 5-1 against the Vikings since 2018. Then the Bears are at Seattle, who could not even score against the Packers yesterday. Then they play the Giants at home. Matt Nagy's 2-0 against the Giants with his starting quarterback. And then the Bears wrap up the season at Minnesota. The Bears have won the last 3 at US Bank Stadium. Now, I'm not saying the Bears are going to win their next 8 games. But if you're a Bears fan, you got to hold out some positivity. You got to hold out some hope that the rest of the schedule can go good. Or if you're one of the people that say, no, the more the Bears lose, the better chance Nagy and Pace will be gone. I don't think either of them are leaving at the end of this season. I think they'll stick around because of Justin Fields. I think what we saw from Justin Fields in the Niners game, and definitely what we saw from Justin Fields in the second half of the Steelers game, definitely should get you encouraged about this rookie quarterback, okay? Some great stats from Patrick Finley in the Sun-Times on Saturday, I think it was. The Saturday Sun-Times section. If you don't get the sports, if you don't buy the newspaper any of the days during the week, buy the Saturday Sun-Times. You will not be disappointed. If you like any team in Chicago, the Fire, the Red Stars, who are going to a championship game after a 2-0 win yesterday over Portland. If you like the Bulls, the Blackhawks, there are feature stories in Saturday's Sun Times. It's really a good section. But explosive plays for the Bears. The Bears had 12 pass plays of 20 yards or more through the first 7 games. 12 through 7 games. They have had 8 in the last 2 games. The last couple of games, Fields has been sacked a bunch of times, but you also have to look at something else. They have found their tight end. That's right. He's always been there at the end of the line, but Matt Nagy says we have to give him the ball more. 9 of Cole Kmet's 28 catches and 111 of his 284 yards have come in the last 2 weeks. Allen Robinson, 68 yards Monday, the most he's had all season. Marquise Goodwin, Graham, Robinson had their longest catches of the year against the Steelers. Now, granted, the Steelers secondary not as good as their front 7, but I think we saw some good signs. And I cannot wait for the Bears to get back in the field on Sunday, a noon kickoff at Soldier Field against the Baltimore Ravens. So, Bears play the Ravens, who, by the way, as I mentioned, got beat 22-10 the other day to Miami. So you got Green Bay with a 17-0 win over Seattle yesterday. The Packers are 8-2 and seem to be on a roll. Aaron Rodgers is back. The game was kind of really a tough one to watch yesterday with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and the bad weather up there at Lambeau. Detroit will not go 0-17. They could go 0-16-1, but they tied yesterday in a game. They had a chance to win. Pittsburgh had a chance to win. Mistakes on both sides, a bad attempted field goal by Detroit, and the Lions and Steelers played to a 16-16 tie. And the Minnesota Vikings, who a couple weeks ago had the Ravens right where they wanted them. They had a 14-point lead in the second half against the Ravens, gave it up and lost in overtime. The Vikings beat the Chargers yesterday, 27-20. This NFL is weird. It's crazy. The Patriots yesterday over Cleveland, it's not a surprise they beat them. The way they beat them was a joke, holding Cleveland to just 7 points. Dallas over Atlanta. Atlanta had been playing okay. And Dallas, after playing miserably the week before and getting blown out at home, they had a great, great game. Dallas did. Atlanta gets blown out. Of course, you can tell by the way I'm complaining about those two, that I went the other way in my bets. I had 6 wagers, went 3-3, played a couple parlays, obviously didn't win any of those. And then last night I had Kansas City to win with the under. The over-under was 53. Final score, 41-14. That's 55. So I lost that by 2 points. What are you going to do? That's what happens. My old good buddy, we think about him all the time, good old number 55. No, not Lance Briggs. Doug Buffone said, "He who gambles lives in shambles. That's why I only put $5 on bets." That's not what Doug said. I said I only put $5 on bets. Doug said that he who gambles lives in shambles. So the Bears are 3-6. We had a guy that jumped on in and he said, "Hey, Bears are they're gonna run the table." Stranger things have happened. Maybe not to the Bears, but in this National Football League, stranger things have happened. I did not expect a blowout in last night's game. I thought the under looked really good. And then in the second half, it was 17-14 at one point in the second half. Then 24-14. I go, okay, this is okay. This is good. No problem. Travis Kelce catching a lot of passes in the middle of the field. Nothing near the goal line. They have another tight end that catches a touchdown pass. Again, had another parlay. Chiefs, Tyreek Hill to score, and Kelce to score. Sounded good. Kelce was catching a lot of balls, just couldn't get to the end zone in any of them. So anyway, that's enough of my losses. People don't care about losses, just like they usually don't care about your fantasy football team. The only time I usually talk fantasy football is before the season when the draft starts. If you want fantasy football conversation, make sure you always listen to Jeff Meller on ESPN 1000 on Sunday mornings. He's there at 8 o'clock. He's the best in the business. He's out there. He's on vacation, and he's calling in with fantasy football stuff. Really good stuff. We'll talk some Bulls basketball, too, because the Bulls are fun to watch. A lot of fun to watch. They beat the Clippers last night, a game that didn't get over till 11. Tonight's game will be a little bit later as they play the Lakers. They're 1-1 on this 5-game swing of the West Coast. They will play Lakers tonight, Portland Wednesday, and I think it's Friday or Saturday. They end up playing Denver Friday. They do it without Vucevic, but the small lineup played well yesterday. It's great watching Alex Caruso out there, and I won some money, Harry. I won some money this week. Harry Berg, who you can find on his Overs and Unders show here on the 1252 network on Fridays at 8 o'clock. I was fortunate enough to be on with him on a Friday night, and we talked about a bunch of games. I did okay. You know, you're not going to make money and you lose on the juice. So you can catch our shows on YouTube. You can catch me and our shows on Facebook. Also, catch the shows on Twitch. And usually the day after every show, you can catch us on Spotify. So if you're driving around while listening to the audio from the shows, you can do it right there. I'll get to a lot of other stuff. And I'm going to do some of that with our guest because I've known this guy, boy. I went and I was working at One-on-One Sports. My shift was Saturday morning at 1 a.m. till 5 a.m. Jay Hood was my producer, and we had calls the whole show. It was unbelievable. 4 hours, middle of the night, and we had calls from everywhere. Nova Scotia, Hawaii. That's where I met Randy Merkin for the very first time. And Randy comes in. He's also a guy I always see at ESPN 1000. Randy, what's up?
Freddie, I'm good. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you fine.
Beautiful. Yeah, we've known each other a very long time.
Yeah.
I can remember back in the day because, like, I was single. I lived like 30 minutes away, and all the guys would congregate there on the weekends.
Yes.
Especially if there was a big fight, we would order the fight. So we'd all go into one of the other studios, watch the fight, and then just being who we were, we would try booking guests. Like if there was a big fight and there was something going on, we'd start, Matt Nahagi and I'd start calling the hotel, trying to get the boxer on or Don King on or something like that. But
sure,
I remember being there for the start of some of your shows, being there that late at 1 a.m. That was like a fraternity, that place. That was so much fun to work at. It was in Northbrook, easy parking. You didn't have to worry about any parking. You just drove in there and, man, we had a blast for so long. That was a great time.
Yeah, it really was. It was a really good time. A lot of good people came from that. I remember, you would ask me, it was you or someone else asked me, they go, do you have a guy that can produce for you? And I said, this guy, Jay Hood, he's pretty good. And he came in and produced. And remember, we used to record the shows on videotapes.
Yes.
We'd record the whole shows on videotapes because there were such long shows. And it was great memories. It was a lot of great experience too, doing a network show. You know, you got to realize that you only had like eight or 9 minutes every segment.
Right.
And you had to get in, get out. You had to make sure you hit the breaks and everything. It was good practice for the future.
And, you know, people are like, oh, you know, you hosted a show. But when you do a network radio show, like we brought in some people from the Chicago area who, you know, and put them in that slot. And they were like, whoa, like I have to know about like Patrick Ewing being traded to the Sonics. Well, you know. So like, you know, for you to do 4 hours by yourself in the middle of the night, especially because that's when the crazies come out, you know, and I mean, when I first started there, I was working overnights. I think I did work overnights like 2 nights a week, and that was like Bobby Kemp's show, who now I think hosts like middays in Arizona. And he had crazy callers, and he had these rules that like he wouldn't talk about. Pete Rose was banned, and and like these callers, like. I mean, somehow some of them got through, but like, and we actually had a lot of affiliates at night. Like during the day, we didn't have a ton of affiliates, but like at night, people didn't want to have local programming, so we had a lot of big stations. So we were getting calls from like Philly, San Francisco, all over the place, and you got some real crazies at the middle of the night that were just calling in, just raising havoc.
Yeah, I had a guy that called me every week wanting to talk Oregon football when Tony Graziani, I think, was the quarterback at Oregon. Yes. So every Friday, you know me, I'm not the biggest college football fan. I was a bigger college football fan then, but the USA Today would have a preview of all top 25 games every week. And I'd sit there and I drilled through that and go through all the previews and everything. And so I was all ready for him when he called every week. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great experience. And I remember there was a gas station. I'd stop and get a large 44-ounce soda before I came the other block or two to the radio station.
I remember that. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Randy, I'm gonna talk a little sports with you too, because I want to talk about the Bulls a little bit. Because I know you get up and you're at the station relatively early, but not as early as some of the guys. But these late night West Coast trips, I guess it's good that it's early. Last night wasn't too bad. Tonight's, I think, a little later because last night was a 6:30 West Coast start. Today's a little later, I think.
Right. It's an hour later, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But all of a sudden, you're an author. You write a
Yes.
book called Behind the Glass, Stories
I
from a
got it right
Sports
here,
Radio
Fred.
Producer. There it is.
There it
There
is.
it is.
We got
You
them
can get it.
yesterday.
And they're in, right? They're in.
Yeah.
People can order them at
BehindTheGlassTheBook.com.
there you go.
BehindTheGlassTheBook.com.
Yeah. And it's I've heard a lot of the stories. I know that you started doing stuff. I don't know if you did it because of COVID or because you were home all the time, but you started posting little videos talking about your
Right.
experiences of booking guests. How did that come about? Was it just because you were at home so often?
Good question. So, like forever, Sylvie would always say to me, like in our meetings, he would say, "Mark, you should do a pod." Because I tell some of these stories, like you should do a podcast. These are great stories, and I'm like, yeah. And then when Mike Thomas came aboard, okay, I remember Carmen and I think it was just Carmen and myself. Yurko was gone and Melor was producing. He said to me, he looked at me, Mike used to have that intimidating, like that look, like that kind of
Yeah.
growl. He's like, when's the last time you posted on Twitter? And I'm like, 2015 when Wisconsin made the Final Four. And he's like, why don't you post more? Why don't you on social media? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, you should start posting more. And I'm like, all right. So just one day, it was during the pandemic, and I remember saying, you know what? I'll do a guest story on one of the George Steinbrenners. I'm like, I was expecting like whatever, like 500 views, maybe a
Sure.
couple likes. I had my daughter Dana record them for me, and I originally when I did it, it was like 4 minutes long. And I know Twitter you can only do 2 minutes and 60. I didn't want it to be 4 minutes long. It's 4 minutes is too long. So I did knock it down to like 2 minutes and 16 seconds, and I posted it. Whatever. She helped me with that too because I had no idea how to post a video on Twitter at that point. And then I remember like just being like, all right, whatever. And then you know Matt Nahagian.
Yes, I do.
Like an hour later, he texts me. He's like, dude, what the blank? And I'm like, what? He goes, have you looked at that George Steinbrenner thing? And I'm like, no, why? He's like, you've got over 30,000 views and over like 200 likes and 40 comments already. And he's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And then I think it ended up like 73,000 views or something like that, and tons of likes and tons of response, like keep them coming, Merc. So originally I was so gung ho, I was doing like one every 3 days, and then I'm like,
Right.
all right, that's too much. But I love doing them. And the amazing thing is like it's all memory. Like I didn't write. I mean, like it's just like I have this. Maybe it's just why I'm kind of good at what I do. I just have like this insane memory of everything that I've done in the past, and I
Right.
like basically almost every guest booking story to the T, like what happened. But yeah, that's why I started doing them. And then some got better responses than others. Like when I did one on Sylvie, that got a huge response.
Sure.
My holes in one story got a huge response. So I loved it. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, that's what led to the book, because Rick Camphor, after like the second or third one, reached out to me. I was like, hey, I know someone that could help you out. This would make a great book. And I was like, I reached out to him. I'm like, I've always wanted to write a book, not about this specifically, but
Sure.
I said, help me out. How do I do it? And he said, write 3 stories, send them to me. I did. He's like, these are gold. Keep it up. So that's what I did for a year and a half.
That's cool. That's very, very cool. And let me ask you a question. Did you ask some people out there probably know your brother better than they know you, because Scott has been following and working for the White Sox and MLB.com for a long, long time. Did you ask him for any help or any suggestions?
Fred, I didn't tell anyone about this book. I mean, literally no one. Okay. I had to tell, Bob Berger and Bruce Murray, obviously.
Yes.
With them. They were I produced their show for a long time on Sports Saturday, Sports Sunday, at 101 Sports, Sporting News Radio. So a lot of the stories are about them, with them involved. So I asked them each to give me a little blurb for the book. And then I asked Waddle and Sylvie for a little blurb. Outside of that, like I think I told Mike Thomas, like, because I needed to get a permission to come down and have the photo taken for the front of the book.
Right.
Outside of that, I didn't tell anyone. Like I literally emailed my brothers a week before I was announcing it, saying, hey, I wrote a book. Here's the cover, whatever. And then my brother called me up and I was like, what? And then, I wanted it to be a surprise to everyone, really. Like I didn't want any, because all along I kept thinking, will I do this? Will I do this? Will it get finished? And then it got finished. And then a couple revisions. So yeah, no one knew about it. Like maybe 5 or 6 people. My wife obviously knew about it. My kids knew about it, but outside of that, not a ton of people knew about it.
Yeah, that's
So to answer
amazing.
your question, I didn't ask for any help from Scott.
Did you ever think about it? Were you ever just stuck on something and you said,
No,
man, Scott would
no,
probably be able to figure this out?
no, no. I don't
No,
need any
huh?
help. I don't need any
Uh,
help from Scott.
okay. Well, it's funny too, because a lot of people that watch podcasts and things like this, I got a lot of people in the 1252 network, Fat Mike, and a bunch of other people, and they'll ask me about guests and they'll say, hey, do you got a number for this guy? Or do you know who this guy is? And this book will be great for those kind of people because you're telling all kinds of stories.
Right.
You book some of some huge guests, and you get to a point where you've got phone numbers, you got numbers for these people, you get a relationship with these people, and that helps because if you're looking for someone else, but you know a guy, they can help you get other guests also, can't they?
True. And I think you said something real important there, relationship, because like that's half the battle.
Mhm.
Fred, I have a bunch of numbers of big names. They'll never respond to me, because
Right.
I don't have a relationship with them. They don't know me at
Mhm.
all. So I think that's part of what makes it good, right? Is that you have the relationship with someone. Like I think it's so funny. I was talking to someone from we work at Good Karma now, and a young producer, and I kept mentioning like calling someone in a hotel, and he goes, "You keep mentioning that. What do you mean by that?" And I'm like, "That's how you used to book guests. You called people in hotel." And he's like, "Wait, wait, wait. You call people in hotel rooms to book them for guests?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"You're blowing my mind." And I'm like, yeah, that's how I used to do it. Like, that's how I got George Steinbrenner a couple times. Like once a year, I would always call. Like Greg Maddox was nice enough to always come on. Like once a year, he knew like he would say, "All right, this is your one." And I mean, it was easy back then. These all the guys were listed and pretty accessible, and there wasn't the saturation of media that there is now, right? So
Right.
there wasn't as many outlets calling them, so they were more willing to do it. Now there's so many people out there that I don't blame them sometimes for not wanting to do as much. So, but
Yeah.
the cool thing is like with the all the different stories, Fred, is that like there's so many different ways I went about booking guests. Like one thing I always used to do, we used to have I don't know if it was Borders or Barnes and Noble right down the street from us on State Street. I would go
It was Borders. It was a
Borders. I
Borders.
would go,
Yeah.
Fred. I would go there once a week, okay, and go in and ask them any people you have signing books this week, and they would say, man, this person a couple times, like Jose Canseco's coming. Done. Reached out to his people, got Jose Canseco. He came in studio. Jim Nance was coming. And like the funny thing about Jim Nance is that he was coming in, he wrote a book about his father who
His father.
was
Right.
dealing with Alzheimer's. And I reached out to his assistant, who's great, and she said to me, you know what? His book signing is at 12, and he's got an interview with Teddy Greenstein from the Tribune at 11:15. So if that interview goes short enough, then he'll stop by. So I called Teddy. I'm like, dude, just make it 3 or 4 questions. I need him. I really need. I want Jim Nance in studio, and he was
Yeah.
like, all right, whatever. So Jim Nance came in. He was awesome. Like, and he stayed late
Sure.
and but there's so many different ways I've gone about like booking guests. And like in the book, I'll bring up one that like the main one like that got away. Like, I had Michael on the phone, okay, and I did my research beforehand. I found a guy who played golf with them. I knew I could just call Michael Jordan and try to book him. It was when the lockout was going on, and he was meeting with Michael was as in he was done. He retired, but he was in an advisory role with all the Player Association in Vegas.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, this is my chance to get Michael. It didn't happen, but here's a crazy one that got away. You know who remember Rick Ankiel, right?
Yes.
Okay. So he
Pitcher
started
and
off as a
outfielder.
pitcher,
Yeah.
came back as a hitter, right?
Right.
Great story. I'm shocked they never made a movie off it. But Waddle and Sylvie had just gotten we had just gotten back from like 3 straight days in Bourbonnais the day before, okay? And Rick Ankiel, like that Thursday night, hit a game-winning hit or home run. And another trick is when guys get called up, they usually don't get housing. They put them up in a hotel.
Right.
So there wasn't that many nice hotels in St. Louis. So I found where he was staying. Without asking them, I called up Ankiel. He answered, was really nice, and said, "Yeah, I guess I could do it. Can we do it now?" And we were going to break. I said, "How about I call you back in 5 minutes?" He's like, "Sure." So I go in to Waddle and Sylvie. I'm like, "Hey, we got Rick Ankiel," and Waddle's like, "Eh." And then Sylvie's like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling it either." And then they're like, "Give it to Chet." So you know how Chet is. I go,
Yep.
"Chet, grab your headphones. We're gonna go tape Rick Ankiel." Home run, Merk. Let me do a little research. Give me 30 minutes. I'll go grab a Diet Coke. And like we got to go now. By the time it takes Jeff forever, got
Right.
up, he was gone. So I missed out on that one. But that was like
Oh,
such a great story. That's what's so cool about radio, right? We have the ability the next day, the immediacy, the day
yes.
of, like to get
Yes.
the big guest on that you can't get maybe as now newspapers aren't as prevalent, but like back then, like getting Justin Leonard an hour and a half after he won the Open Championship.
Yep.
Okay, like was to me that's one of my coolest things. Like Justin Leonard was he answered the phone and he was like shocked that I called him. And then he's like, where do you want me to go? I'm like, no, you can just do it over the phone. Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like so,
Yeah.
and I like, how I found him? Like I was watching the Open Championship, and I always do this. I listen, and at some point they'll always say, "Hey, there's the backdrop. There's the hotel. Most players are staying there," or something like that. So I wrote down the hotel, looked it up, and he was listed, and I got lucky enough that he answered. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's what the book's all about. It's bunch of guests. I don't go bad on anyone. Like I
Oh
it's
no.
just about it's guest booking stories. Maybe the worst thing I do, Fred, is I tell my stories about Jerry Krause and how he didn't treat me very nicely. But I mean, I don't go after him. I just tell the truth what happened. So, but I hope people enjoy it. It's a fun story. It's not you could probably read it in one night. It's
Sure.
not like a Bob Woodward book. All right, it's just going to be a fun book. And like if you mentioned a good thing, like a good point. If you're a young producer, someone who is looking, it's a great tip, right? It's a great study guide for you of how to persevere and how to book different guests. So that's what it's all about.
One of the things, because you're in the studio most of the time, one of the things you didn't have to do, which is lucky for you and
Uh-huh.
fortunate, Jesse's really good at it, is booking guys at games.
Yep.
And when you're a young reporter, they always want you to book guests at the games.
Yep.
And it's a big pain in the ass. It really
Yep.
is. And I was there one time and they go, get Ricky Henderson on. And this is when I was at the other station. I go, you got to be kidding me. Ricky Henderson doesn't come on for anybody. Go see what you can do. So I go up to Ricky Henderson and I tell him, and he looks at me like, I go, come on. Nobody thinks you're going to come on.
Right.
I said, so come on just for a couple minutes. He came on for like 5 minutes. They go, how the hell did you get him? I said, I just asked him. I flat out asked him.
Right.
But my favorite story, and I mention it all the time, is Cliff Floyd was playing for the Montreal Expos. Now, Cliff Floyd played basketball down at, I want to say it's Thornton. I always screw it up, and I think it's Thornton.
No, it was
Thornwood.
Thornwood. I think he's Mulder and him played at the same high school. It definitely
Okay.
wasn't Thornton. I think it's
Okay.
Thornwood.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so they're playing basketball. And anyway, I asked him to come on with one of the shows. He said, you know what? I really don't have time. And I was holding my recorder and everything. And I said, you know what? That's fine. I said, let me just tell you. I said, state high school super sectional game. I go, you guys are playing against the three amigos from Proviso East. I go, first quarter of the game, your point guard comes over midcourt at Hinsdale Central, throws the ball up to the top of the top of the square. I go, you go up from the corner, grab it, do a monster slam. I said, everybody was silent for a split second, and the 4,400 at Hinsdale went nuts. And he looks at me, he goes, give me the damn phone. Who do I need to talk to? And it was great because you appealed to him. You said you knew a little bit more about him. And that always helped with interviewers. Even if you weren't, that helps when guys go to games. That's one of the most confusing things. You're standing around in a locker room where guys are getting ready for games and you're trying to either book a guy or get him on and you want to get a rapport with them, but they don't want you in the locker room. And now it's going to be really interesting to see after COVID and everything, if those locker rooms ever open again for any of the major sports.
I don't think they will.
I don't think so either.
I think it's a good way for Major League Baseball to keep the reporters out, and players probably don't want them in there.
No.
Anyway, so I think I think that's done.
Yeah, I think so
it's
too.
a whole new way of covering, which is reporters get that's what they get their inside stuff from, getting the side stories and pulling a player aside and asking him questions they don't want any other reporters to find out about. So
yeah, they get all their feature stuff that way.
Yeah, it's going to change for sure.
Of course, the one day I go against the Niners and they're up 14-0.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, they're up 14-0 already?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Interception, I think, or a fumble return.
Matthew Stafford stinks.
It was a fumble through the hands of Higbee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Higbee's my guy. We knew we had him in a playoff fantasy league about 3 years ago when he was really a young player.
Yes. Yeah.
And he scored like 2 touchdowns in a I don't know if it was a wild card game or something, and we were just going nuts. My brothers and my nephew were here, so we've loved Higbee ever since.
That's funny.
Yeah, let me ask you a question about the Bulls
Yeah.
because you're, the Bulls are a team where for years we've wanted to talk about them, but usually it's always been bad. And then they finally made the change. They finally bring in AK. They bring in a new general manager. Did you think it was going to be this quick before? I know it's not a complete turnaround, but now there's excitement. Now there's people want to watch Bulls basketball. Are you surprised it happened this quick?
I'm surprised it happened this quick. Yeah, a little bit. Last year when they got Vucevic, I was, like, all right, he's fine. But I will say, like you wonder, like, what were Garam Pax doing for so long that AK can really just come in? Maybe it's just that guys didn't want to come here with those
Right.
two in charge. I don't know, but like, getting DeRozan and Lonzo Ball. I mean, I guess the big thing is Donovan too, right? I mean, Donovan
Sure.
changed the culture of this team right away. I mean, not really because Fred, you know what, and you know it as well as I do. This league's all about players.
I
It's
know.
it's all about players, and they have players now. They
Yeah.
didn't have players last year. They didn't have players 2 years ago with Hoiberg. They never gave Hoiberg. I mean, I don't think Hoiberg's a very good coach. I'm certain he's not a good coach. He can't win in Nebraska even right now. But
Right.
I mean, he wanted a certain player. They never gave it to him. So
Yeah.
this team was a weird, situation with him there. Um, you know, uh, it's just really odd that like it all comes down to players. And Donovan's good. Like he knows what he's doing. He's won in the NBA before. He's got to the Western Conference Finals. So no, I'm not. And it's only 13 games. I'm sure they're playing better and it's exciting. But like
Right.
they could still have a stretch where they're gonna stink. But
Oh, sure.
I'm not that surprised at all because they've got good players now.
You talk about Donovan, and really one of my biggest things for years, and there are certain sports I'm really good at, the NFL and baseball, and the basketball I'm not. I'll mention it numerous times. I watch all the Bulls games, but I don't watch all the other ones. But you look at it, and for the longest time, college coaches coming up to the pros didn't work. But
Right.
the guy from Butler, I mean, that worked pretty well. He goes to Boston, and
Yeah.
now, yeah, Billy Donovan worked when he came from Florida and came up to OKC and stuff like that. But that's a tough change. For the longest time, I didn't think it would work very well. And maybe it's starting to change, or maybe it's just the guy. Maybe you just got to find the absolute right guy that can handle the pros after dealing with college players.
Yeah, I really do think it's that simple, Fred. Like that, you have to have the right guy because, I mean, think about all the college coaches that have failed. Like, I mean, Lon Kruger failed. He went to Atlanta. That was a disaster. Patino was good, right, for a little bit with the Knicks when
Right.
they early on. He did not do great things with the Boston Celtics. Brad Stevens, I'm not as sold that it was that great. Like I felt like the talent they had, they should have been better.
Sure.
So I don't know. Like
And
I'm
then they
I'm
kicked him upstairs.
what'd you say?
And
Yeah, he
then they
moved them
kicked him
upstairs. Yeah.
upstairs.
And
Yeah.
they're just okay. Like they've got two of the top 20 players, in my opinion, in the NBA right now. Like Jason Tatum. Remember that he had that great series against LeBron in the
Yeah.
Eastern Conference Finals, and everyone's like, Jason Tatum is going to be a star, and he's kind of hasn't been a star since that point. Like he went mano a mano with LeBron in Game 7, right? I mean,
Right.
he dunked down LeBron, and you're like, this guy next year is going to be one of the top 3 candidates for MVP. He really hasn't been consistently that good since then. So, yeah, I mean, college coaches, it all depends. It really all depends on
Yeah.
the guy. I don't think you can blanket say it doesn't work. But I don't think you can either say like Coach K. I'm shocked never tried it. I just
Sure.
because I guess he just figured he's got it so good at Duke. Why try? And Izzo is another guy I thought for sure. Izzo supposedly was really close to the Bulls at one point,
Okay.
but I'm shocked both those guys never tried it. But they're probably better off where they are. They win every year, and people love them, and they get paid a lot of money.
Yeah, they do. It's crazy. One last thing, and let's switch
Yeah.
sports because Justin Fields now is the Bears quarterback. And I heard
Yep.
someone say the other day, "Oh, they won't sign him in a couple of years." I expect Justin Fields to be the Bears quarterback for 10 years.
Yep.
I don't expect him going anywhere.
Yep.
After the last 2 games, the San Francisco game, which they still lost, and well, they lost the Steelers game too. Are you encouraged? I mean, I can't wait for the Ravens game on Sunday. I'm looking forward to what they can do. They found their tight end. They've got Montgomery back. I really like the Wildcat stuff. Usually I don't like the cutesy plays that Nagy puts in, but maybe this is a Bill Lazor cute play with the Wildcat. But I'm excited. I can't wait to see this offense against Baltimore on Sunday.
I was on with you remember Nestor Aparicio?
Yeah,
I was on
I
with
do.
Nestor today, and I was saying, he's like, "Tell me about the Bears. What's going on?" I said, "You know what? It really it's all window dressing right now. All doesn't matter. You got a guy who's a quarterback. All right, he made that throw to down the seam with the Not Freckles,
To Graham. To
Jimmy
Graham.
Graham. Yeah, I wish
Yeah.
Freckles. And I'm like, that throw was elite. He's athletic. He's starting to get it. That's the most important thing. The defense is old, and it's definitely breaking down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think the window is closed on this defense. I really do. I don't think they're going to be great next year, and I think Bears could be middling for a while. But Justin Fields is a stud. He's going to be really good. Fred, I really think that the last two games, okay, his run, it was against the Niners, right?
The Niners, right.
And then I think that second half against the Steelers, where he just kept bringing him back and making throw after throw, I think that's going to go a long way. I do. I'm very, very optimistic that this guy is legit. I'm not going to be like crown him anything, say he's going to be the next coming of Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
But I think the Bears finally got something here, and I think it's going to be good enough if they win 4 games, Fred, in the second half, and he's really good. You're not going to get rid of Nagy and Pace, because you're like, why would you bring a new coach in after the first year, give him another year, and see if they can build on that and win a couple more games? So that's the feeling on that.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen too. So Thursday is a big day because not only is your book out now, but you got a book release party at up in Northbrook at the Claim Company, right?
Claim Company, yeah, it's a famous restaurant. It used to be in Northbrook Court. Now it's on Dundee. It's on Skokie Boulevard Road, right up Dundee. 6:30, 8:30, come by, buy a book, get a quick Claim Company for a burger, the Motherload. They got great burgers there, and I'll sign it, take a picture, whatever you want. Love to see everyone out there who can come out. 6:30, 8:30, Claim Company, a lot of parking, and it should be a lot of fun.
And for those who can't, it's behindtheglassthebook.com, right?
Behindtheglassthebook.com.
Okay, sounds good. I'll make sure I pop it up on the website also and go from there. Randy, appreciate you jumping on. I know there's football. The Bulls are playing. I appreciate it. You worked all day, and now you came out with me. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Anytime, Fred. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
All right.
Randy Merkin, he's the operations manager. He's the executive producer at ESPN 1000. Like I said, I worked with him at One-on-One Sports. It was fun. It was a great way to get a lot of experience and a lot of time talking to listeners and callers that were a little out of it, because these people were calling me early in the morning, late at night. They were calling from Hawaii, Nova Scotia, all parts of the United States. I was getting Alaska calls, Washington. You never knew when another caller called up what they wanted to talk about. And it was great preparation and great practice for me as a talk show host. Obviously, when you're in Chicago and you're talking Chicago sports, it's a lot easier than when you're going to get a caller. He wants to know, what do you think about Nebraska this week when they take on Penn State? It's like, oh my God. Thank goodness I had Jay Hood around, because he could always help me out, because Jay Hood, always the college football fan. Couple other things I wanted to talk about. And actually, we got into most of the stuff with basketball and the Bulls. I can't wait to see them tonight as they take on the Lakers. Should be a fun time. Let's take a quick break, hear from one of our big sponsors, Nick and Ivy, and also then we'll talk some beer news, because there was a lot going on in the beer world this past week, and I made a bunch of stops at breweries over the last week or two. So let's hear from Nick and Ivy, then we'll be right back.
Hello, this is Paul from Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. We are located at 1026 South State Street in historic downtown Lockport, Illinois. We are very excited to be partnering up with the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show, as well as the 1252 brand, because we are one of the few Chicagoland breweries that embrace sports and sports culture. Come in for a fresh brewed beer made right here in Lockport while catching the game of your favorite team. Stay for the live music that we have booked every weekend, or just come for a cozy atmosphere to enjoy a good conversation with a friend, loved one, or complete stranger. Nick and Ivy makes you feel right at home no matter what the occasion is. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. Visit our website for our up-to-date tap list, or to go shopping on our online store at nickivybrewing.com. That's Nikivy brewing.com. Come in today for fresh brewed beer born and raised in Lockport, Illinois.
So I've not had a chance to get to Nick and Ivy in a week or two, and I'm starting to get the jitters. I got to get back out there and get some of their great beer. The Fat Mike Lager, not only on tap, but also in cans at Burcott's Foods in the Lockport area. If you're out that way, pick it up. You won't go wrong with the Fat Mike Lager, and you can also pick up the Huebner on tap, and I think still some cans available at Nick and Ivy Brewing. Got to get over there. Thursdays are big. Thursdays, $5 pint nights. You can't beat that. They've got entertainment all the time. So Nick and Ivy, thank them. They're a very, very good sponsor for us. Over the last week or two, I stopped at Altar Brewing a couple weeks ago because Skeleton Key Brewing was releasing a beer with Skeleton Key. Skeleton Key was releasing a beer with Altar Brewing. I'll get that right. So over the last week or two, let me see. I stopped at Goldfinger Brewing a week and a half ago. Goldfinger was running low on their amber, which I had not had yet, so I went there on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, I came back and had their Dunkel. Their Dunkel, a typical darker German style beer. Very, very good. It was fun to get there, fun to have one of them. And now Goldfinger has collaborated with Hop Butcher. Now, Hop Butcher, it's an interesting collaboration. Hop Butcher is by their name, hop heavy beers. They're doing IPAs, hazy IPAs, a lot of things like that. Okay. Goldfinger doesn't do that. Goldfinger does ales. So Goldfinger and Hop Butcher have got together. They're collaborating on a sparkling lager called Champagne Shores. Pre-orders start Monday, November 29th. It'll be released the week of December 20th. And it looks just like a champagne bottle. Champagne Shores, a sparkling lager. Cannot wait to taste it. The Goldfinger and Hop Butcher collaboration. Got to check that out. Let's see here. Orange and Brew. Very first, my brother Barry. Higbee touchdown. Yep, we love Higbee. He's our guy. Even if you don't have him in fantasy, which I think I might in one of my leagues. But anyway, Orange and Brew. Eric Schmidt was my first guest on my first podcast show. Eric from Orange and Brew, and I've been heading there since they opened. They do a lot of very, very cool stuff there. Not as many places are doing the advent calendars this year. The Illinois Craft Brewers Guild did one, and but not a lot of people are doing them this year. Orange and Brew is doing, for the second year in a row, from what I understand, the 12 Days of Christmas. Okay. Sales start online Thursday, December 2nd, and the pickup is Saturday, December 18th. It highlights the small business breweries that self-distribute. So this will be fun. This will be great. Make sure you get online, order those beers, and the 12 Days of Christmas coming up December 2nd. So I told you about places I went to, okay? I went to Black Horizon the other day because I saw Black Horizon posted on Facebook. I saw it. They posted their brown rye Kolsch Moonship. They had put that in Weller bourbon barrels for 9 months. I said, well, I got to try this. So I went there and it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. The bourbon jumped out at you. Not too much. The beer was awesome. I loved it at Black Horizon. That's where I picked up the Jester's Cap. And I'm still enjoying this one. I may end up having the third of the 4-pack when I'm done here. So the brown rye Kolsch in Weller barrels from Black Horizon. So I stopped and had one of those. I did that at 3 o'clock 3 o'clock last Friday. I had to get there at 3 because I knew they were opening at 3. So I got there about 3:10, 3:15. And then at 4 o'clock, Skeleton Key Brewing opened up. They're running Little Key right now. Everybody knows Skeleton Key had their roof ripped off, their tap rooms destroyed during the tornado on Father's Day. They're still working on getting together, but they are collaborating with a ton of different people, okay? And I walked in, I saw Paul. I had collaborations from Oswego Brewing, Church Street Brewing, and also Brother Chimp Brewing. Very, very good. Smaller tastes. Didn't drink a lot. Really good stuff. Skeleton Key Brewing's not able to brew at their facilities, but they're doing collaborations everywhere. It is so awesome. And if you had a chance to get one of their shirts, I think the shirts are available on Wednesday for the people that ordered them. It's their collaboration tour. The back of it looks like a concert t-shirt, shows you the collaboration and all the times they collaborated and which of the breweries they collaborated with. Very, very cool. I ordered one right away. I cannot wait to pick it up. And I stopped at Milk Money. Because my guy, Carmen DeFalco, he does a bourbon and bacon fundraiser for cystic fibrosis every year. So this year, they usually have it at Binny's downtown. They could not do it at Binny's downtown because indoors still, because of COVID, they couldn't do it. So the guys at Milk Money were good enough to put a tent in their parking lot, and the bourbon and bacon fundraiser was last Thursday. I'm not a bourbon guy. You hear me talk about drinking beer in bourbon barrels, but I'm not a bourbon guy. But that night, I went to Four Roses. I went to Michter's, and I asked the people, what's this? Why is this? What's the best way to drink this? How do you make this? And they were telling me. And just a sip of the bourbon explodes in your mouth. It's unbelievable. You put a little sip. I mean, like if you're watching me, the smallest of sips, like just that. And you hold it in your mouth explodes. It's like all over. And it was very, very good. Who knows? Maybe I'll be a bourbon drinker as I get older. But it was very, very tasty. But before they opened, that started at 6, the fundraiser, I got to Milk Money at 5:30. I thought that was a good idea. I had one of their English style beers, and I also had their milk stout, which was very, very tasty. So I'm trying to hit them all, hit as many of them as I can. There's a lot of other breweries I haven't had a chance to. I've not been to Lunar Brewing in Villa Park yet. I can't wait to get there. Maybe I'll hit Lunar and Noon Whistle and let's see, Lunar, Noon Whistle, and more. That'd be a nice little trip. Maybe someone could drive me on that. Or it might be a nice little excursion, a nice little tour. So the Festival of the Festival of Wood and Barrel Aged Beers was this weekend at UIC. It used to be at the UIC Forum, which was on the corner of Halstead and Roosevelt. And it was very nice. Everything worked nice. This year, for the first year, it was at the UIC Pavilion, which is called something else. First Credit, First Union Credit, First Credit Union, whatever. It was there and it was outside. Of course, this Saturday was cold out. But what they do is breweries age their beer in wood barrels and wood and bourbon barrels. And they have different categories. And local breweries were unbelievable in Medals One. And the judges voted and picked a lot of them. Here are some of the winners from the Festival of Barrel Aged Beers. Okay. First one, the Wild Beer Mixed Culture with Fruit Acidic. Okay. Whiskey Hill won the gold. Okay. Whiskey Hill with their Solar Fusion. I tried the Solar Fusion last week. I stopped at Whiskey Hill and had a Solar Fusion and also had one of their stouts, which they are bottling, and I didn't get there early enough to get one. So Whiskey Hill, along with the guys, Brian Naus from the Midwest Brew Review, who we had on a couple weeks ago, and also Ricky Cervantes from Foreign Exchange. Those two guys got together with Whiskey Hill, and they get a gold medal winner in Solar Fusion. You might be able to go buy it, stop over at Whiskey Hill and pick it up. It was like $18 a bottle, I think. Now it's a gold medal winner. Okay. A wild beer. Okay. Second was Noon Whistle with their gimbals. And third was Penrose with a Cellar Reserve Boysenberry. Now in the wild beer mixed culture acidic, no fruit here, it was the Hopewell Arrow of Time Blend 002. They got an award. Specialty Strong Porter and Stout Workforce gets one. A double bourbon barrel aged Sleepy Bear. I've had that before. It is unbelievably tasty. And the second was Short Fuse from Schiller Park, a bourbon barrel aged precious. Boy, I wish I could remember. Precious Little Treat. Okay. So they won an award. The Strong Porter and Stout, Hailstorm, Vlad versus Zombie versus Shark. They got the silver medal. Fruit beer and the area breweries dominated. They got 1, 2, and 3. Cruz Blanca from the Fulton Market area, Barbara Rose. Will County, we had Jamie Albert on a couple weeks ago. They won with the Caramel Apple Triple. And Alter Brewing with the Vanilla Blood. So the fruit beer, very, very strong for the local breweries. And other pale ale, Pollyanna with the apple brandy, barrel-aged Orenda, and Black Horizon with another one. So get the Black Horizon. You can try the gin barrel-aged stand and deliver. So Black Horizon cranking out some great stuff. I mentioned the Weller-aged Kolsch. Now they win an award for their gin barrel-aged stand and deliver. And the area breweries are working and cranking out some unbelievable styles of beer. And that's very, very cool. Revolution Brewing was the runner-up for the Best in Show. They took all the beers that were there. And their VSOJ, barley wine and wheat wine, was second best. Second best in show. So they were runner-up for Best in Show. So very, very cool. The local brewery is doing all kinds of great, great things. And that's wonderful to see. It's wonderful that there's so much great work. So many people cranking out good beer. And that's fun to see. I'm in a good mood today. I don't have a What's Up, Friends can. I had a great time talking to Randy Merkin. Again, if you have a chance, pick up his book. Let me just make sure I get the title right. Behind the Glass. Now you can get it online, behindtheglass.thebook.com, $20. Great book. If you have a friend, maybe your dad, maybe your dad's a sports radio fan. Maybe you're not, but your dad is. Or maybe you've got a high school age son or something like that likes sports radio. Pick up the book. Merck's got some great stories of some of the people that he booked. It's amazing the job that he's done over the years. The Bears, they take on the Ravens this weekend. And I think they have a good chance to win. I thought they had a good shot to beat the Steelers. They did have a good shot to beat them. I'm glad I wasn't here the other day because I could have gone a whole show talking about the referees and how bad they were. They could have been What's Up My Can. But yeah, we'll just skip it. It's been a week old. We've got to let it go. Every once in a while, you got to let things go. So thanks to Randy Merkin for jumping on with me. Thanks to you for listening and those who watched. And remember, you can see us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and then also hear the audio on Spotify. Lots of great shows coming up throughout the course of the week. The World's Best Fantasy Show. You've got Overs and Unders, all kinds of things. You got the Hard Count Football, which just started on Sunday morning with Jason, a young kid who's doing a great, great job. I watched his show with Harry Berg the other day. Harry's Overs and Unders. David Schuster did his show last night, the Schuster Express. So tons of great stuff. If you ever want to catch up, go to Spotify or YouTube and just go to 1252 Sports and you'll see all the shows that we are cranking out. Thanks a lot for watching. I will be back next Monday. We'll be recapping that Bears and Ravens game. Hopefully a Bears victory. Have a good night. Thanks, everyone.